You can look, but don't touch, man. This ain't a charity. Rick's voice sliced through the midday noise like a blade through fabric. Downtown Los Angeles was pulsing, food trucks hissing, hip-hop beats echoing off brick walls, the smell of tacos and ambition mixing in the heat. But at stall 312, time froze. The crowd turned just enough to see the target of that sentence. A tall black man stood silent, one hand tucked in his pocket, the other holding a small paper cup of coffee that had gone cold. His name was Malik Turner, though no one here knew it. To them, he was just another guy wandering the market in an old t-shirt and sneakers. Maybe curious, maybe broke. Rick sneered, tapping the handmade bracelet on display like it was gold. $500, bro? You sure you can handle that? Malik didn't blink. The insult wasn't new. It just arrived on a different street today. A group of tourists slowed down, pretending to check another booth but clearly watching. The tension had gravity, the kind that pulled eyes without permission. Lena, a young woman working the juice stand next door, froze mid-blend. She glanced between the two men, one boiling with arrogance, the other steady as still water. Rick smirked wider, emboldened by silence. You know what, don't waste my time. Customers only. Emsit. He waved him off with the same casual disrespect people reserve for flies. Malik looked down at the bracelet, woven leather, clean finish, good craftsmanship. He reached out, not to buy, but to admire the weave. Rick slapped his hand away. I said don't touch. The sound cracked louder than it should have. Even the DJ from 2 stalls down turned down the volume. Malik's gaze lifted, slow, deliberate, calm, but sharp enough to cut. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Malik Turner. He didn't raise his voice, didn't move. He just said softly, almost like a warning wrapped in patience. I wasn't here to buy. I was here to see who deserves a chance. Rick frowned. Yeah? You scouting for charity? Malik gave a faint smile. No, for opportunity. The air shifted, no thunder, no music, just that slow, invisible hum when power hides itself in plain sight. For Malik Turner, mornings in Los Angeles had always felt like background music, a score that played beneath his rise. Engines, voices, street vendors, ambition, all layered over heat and dust. He used to wake up in a 1-bedroom apartment off Crenshaw, counting every dollar before class. Now, decades later, he woke up in a penthouse high above the skyline he built from nothing. But this morning, he wanted to come back down not to remember struggle, but to check if dignity still existed in the places that raised him. So he left his driver 3 blocks away, told security to stay invisible, and walked. No entourage, no press, no armor of success, just jeans, sneakers, and the kind of calm that made arrogance reveal itself. The streets were alive, friars hissed, speakers blasted trap beats, and someone shouted about discounted tacos. Smells of fried dough and engine smoke tangled in the air. A mural of Kobe watched from a brick wall, sunlight cutting across his painted eyes. Every sound reminded Malik how far he'd come, and how easy it was to forget where he started. He passed a young boy selling bottled water from a cooler. "Stay hydrated, boss," the kid yelled. Malik smiled. That word boss used to sting. Now it just meant someone had noticed he stood different. He reached the corner where stalls lined both sides like a living heartbeat of the city. Handmade jewelry, fake sneakers, knockoff perfumes, a chorus of hustlers singing for survival. And then stall 312 stopped him cold. Leather, clean stitching, colors that didn't clash, a kind of precision that spoke of discipline, not luck. He turned the bracelet over, studying its weave, the symmetry of every knot. Whoever made this cared about detail, about legacy, even if they didn't call it that. That was the kind of person the Turner Street Initiative existed for. Every year, his foundation funded vendors with raw craft and moral backbone, no resumes, no fancy pitches, just authenticity, the kind of people corporate America ignored until they were too successful to deny. He told his assistant Rachel before coming here, "Don't schedule meetings for the next few hours. I'm scouting the truth." She'd laughed, half joking, "You always find trouble when you go incognito," and he'd replied, "Trouble reveals character." It wasn't just a saying, it was a business model. Malik had built empires by watching how people treated power they didn't recognize. He believed respect was the first investment, and arrogance was the first bankruptcy. Now, as he stood at stall 312, He saw the test walking toward him, a man with sunglasses, tanned skin, and a chip on his shoulder big enough to cast shade. Rick, vendor, gatekeeper of a 6-foot empire of leather bracelets. Rick didn't know who Malik was, didn't know that the man in front of him had funded 5 city blocks of redevelopment, or that his company employed 40,000 people worldwide. All he saw was a black man in a plain shirt, standing too close to something expensive. Malik adjusted his coffee cup and waited. He wasn't planning to confront anyone. He was planning to listen. That's what people with real power do best. They let the room tell on itself. His phone buzzed once in his pocket. He ignored it. He'd told Rachel earlier, "If I go quiet, it means I'm seeing something real. Don't interrupt it." A gust of wind carried the smell of hot oil and summer sweat down the row of stalls. A tourist couple walked past, laughing, snapping photos. The world kept spinning, but for Malik, the seconds began to slow, that strange stillness before a storm you can't see, only feel. He took one last sip of coffee, set the cup on a trash bin, and looked up just as Rick opened his mouth for the first insult of the day. And though Malik didn't know it yet, every word that man was about to say would decide his own future. Because in 5 minutes, one of them would walk away, changed, and it wouldn't be the billionaire. The first laugh came from Rick, dry, sharp, the kind that made people turn just to see who was getting humiliated. "You're still here? I told you, look, don't touch. This stuff's not for window shoppers." A few heads turned. A couple of teenagers snickered. The air between them tightened. Malik didn't move. He just studied the bracelet again, like he hadn't heard the insult at all. That calm irritated Rick more than any comeback could. "Hey," Rick said louder, waving a hand in front of him. "You deaf or just broke?" A small gasp came from the juice stand next door. Lena, early 20s, curly hair tied back under a visor, froze mid-blend. Her boss muttered, "Don't get involved." But her eyes stayed on Malik. Rick leaned across the counter, voice thick with confidence. "Let me guess. You want to touch it so you can knock off the design and sell it on some sidewalk? Come on, man, I know the game." And Malik's voice came low, even. "Do you?" Rick blinked, thrown off by the tone, calm, precise, almost surgical. He chuckled, trying to recover. "Yeah, seen your type 1,000 times. All talk, no wallet." The crowd shifted, not closer, but quieter. A middle-aged woman with grocery bags slowed her walk. A street musician muted his amp. Even the friars down the row seemed to hiss softer. Lena whispered to herself, "He's not even mad." Malik picked up the bracelet gently, examining the stitching like an instructor grading a project. "Who made these?" Rick shrugged. "Does it matter? You buying or not?" "It matters," Malik said. "Craft tells you who a person really is." Rick laughed again, loud this time. "Oh, so you're some kind of philosopher now?" "Something like that." Malik's tone was steady, the kind of control that made arrogance nervous. But Rick mistook it for weakness. He grabbed the bracelet from Malik's hand. "You break it, you buy it," he snapped. Malik looked at him for the first time, not up, not down, just straight through. "You think I couldn't?" The question wasn't loud, but it landed like a hammer. Rick's smirk faltered. Lena felt it too. She leaned forward, whispering to a tourist beside her. "He doesn't sound like someone broke," the tourist whispered back. "Then why's he dressed like that?" Malik heard, but didn't flinch. He'd heard versions of that question his entire life, at banks, at boardrooms, at every door that tried to measure worth by clothes. Rick crossed his arms, puffing up. "You know, man, you people always act like you're owed respect." The words hung there ugly, deliberate. A collective pause followed, the kind that tastes like static. Malik set the bracelet down carefully, as if it were glass. "Respect isn't owed," he said. "It's reflected." Lena's blender stopped. The crowd grew still. Even the wind seemed to wait. Rick scoffed, trying to laugh it off. "You got a lot of wisdom for somebody loitering at my booth." Malik smiled, the kind of smile that wasn't amusement, just patience on the edge of ending. "Maybe I'm not loitering, maybe I'm observing." Rick frowned. "Observing what?" "Choices," Malik said simply. "How people treat strangers when they think no one's watching." Behind them, a customer lifted his phone subtly, recording. Lena whispered, "Don't," but her voice shook. Malik turned slightly toward her. "It's all right. Let him. Truth doesn't mind the light." Rick scoffed again, grabbing a towel to wipe the counter. "Man, you talk like some preacher. Either buy something or move along. This ain't TED Talk hour." The crowd chuckled nervously. Malik exhaled slowly, calm as a still lake. "You're right. This isn't a talk. It's a test. Rick laughed, confused. A test? Of what? Of what you do, Malik said, when opportunity doesn't look like money. He turned to leave. For a second, Rick looked almost relieved, the scene fading, the eyes turning away. Then Malik's phone buzzed again. He answered without breaking stride. Rachel, he said quietly. Mark Vendor 3, 12. I found our case study. Rick froze mid-wipe. Lena's jaw dropped. The crowd didn't understand yet, but they could feel it. Something in the air had shifted, subtle but irreversible. Malik didn't move. He stood there like gravity itself had decided to hold him steady. The street noise swelled again. Engines, chatter, a radio blasting Drake somewhere down the block. But right around stall 312, the sound bent. People weren't just hearing anymore. They were listening. Rick tossed the towel aside, muttering, "Man's talking to himself like he's in a movie." He looked at the crowd, half laughing, half defensive. Don't mind him, folks. Happens every day. Some people just like to play rich. A few chuckles scattered through the air, the kind of laughs people give when they're not sure if they're supposed to. Malik didn't react. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small folded note, a corner of a vendor's flyer he'd grabbed earlier, and jotted something down. Lena watched from behind her counter, her heart beating in strange sync with his stillness. She didn't know why this man's calm unnerved her more than Rick's shouting. Maybe because she'd seen this story before, not the billionaire part, just the way the world handled quiet black men who refused to shrink. Rick leaned closer, trying to break the silence. You writing me a review or something? Malik didn't look up. Documentation, he said. Of what? Behavior. The word landed with weight. Rick scoffed. Oh, great. Another social media hero. Oh. He mimed, holding a phone, pretending to film himself. Hashtag lessons in humility, right? Malik's voice stayed soft. Humility can't be taught. It's exposed. Lena swallowed hard. She whispered to her coworker, "That's the calmest man I've ever seen get insulted." Her coworker shrugged, uneasy. Calm gets you hurt sometimes. Malik turned his head slightly, meeting Lena's eyes. For a second, the crowd disappeared. It's not calm, he said. It's control. That word rippled outward like a stone in water. Even Rick paused, not sure what to say next. From across the walkway, a young man lifted his phone not for a selfie, but to film what was becoming a scene. The red recording light blinked faintly in the reflection of a sunglass lens. Malik noticed. No need for that, he said, voice carrying just enough to reach him. Why not? People should see this. They will, Malik answered, but not like that. The bystander hesitated, lowering his phone halfway. Rick barked a laugh. Man, you really think anyone cares about your little lecture? You're wasting oxygen. Malik finally met his gaze head-on. You're right. Respecting you is optional. Respecting myself isn't. That line drew a murmur from the crowd, a quiet chorus of, damn, and he said that. Lena felt her pulse quicken. She didn't record, but she wished she had. Rick's smirk cracked. He doubled down, the way insecure men do when the power starts slipping. You're standing here acting like some boss, but you're still on my sidewalk. Sidewalks, Malik said evenly, belong to the city. The city belongs to its people. I'm both. Someone clapped once. Just once. Then stopped, embarrassed. The crowd chuckled nervously again, unsure which side to stand on. Rick's manager, Dana, appeared from behind a stall 2 doors down, clipboard in hand, eyes sharp from distance. Rick, what's going on here? Just cleaning up some loitering, he said quickly. Guy's been hovering, messing with customers. Dana turned to Malik, assessing him like an equation she wanted to solve fast. Sir, if you're not purchasing, I'll have to ask you to move along. It's a liability issue. Malik smiled slightly, but it wasn't amusement. Liability? Yes, you're blocking access. To what? Patients? The crowd snickered. Dana stiffened. Please don't make this difficult. Malik's voice stayed even. You've already done that. Rick tried to reassert himself. See, Dana? He's playing games. No, Malik said. I'm giving chances. Dana frowned. To who? To see yourselves before everyone else does. That sentence hung like a mirror in midair, and for the first time since it started, no one moved. Lena's coworker whispered, What does that even mean? Lena answered softly, It means he's not the one losing control. A gust of warm wind swept through the market, rattling the tarp above them. Plastic tags clinked together like small alarms. Rick looked around. suddenly aware of how quiet everything had gotten. Malik slipped the folded note into his pocket, then reached for his phone. He spoke quietly but clearly. Rachel, log stall 312. Escalation triggered. Continue observation mode. A pause. Then a faint voice through his earpiece. Understood, sir. Aid you. Rick's mouth opened, confusion flickering across his face. Wait, sir? He repeated. But Malik had already stepped back half a pace, hands relaxed at his sides. The test wasn't over, but the result was already forming. He didn't raise his voice, didn't touch his phone again. He just stood there, calm and unshakable, while the world around him began to choose which side of history it wanted to be on. The first voice didn't come from Malik. It came from behind him, shaky, uncertain, but loud enough to matter. Excuse me, someone said. He didn't do anything wrong. Every head turned. Lena stood there, still wearing her juice stand visor, her hands trembling just enough to make the blender hum without the lid. Rick spun toward her. Mind your own business, Lena. You got customers. No, she said, her voice finding strength mid-sentence. I've got eyes. That line cracked something open. A few people clapped softly. The energy in the market shifted small, invisible, but real. Malik didn't move. He just looked at Lena with quiet acknowledgement, not gratitude, not surprise, just a shared understanding that courage often arrives in whispers first. Rick turned back to the crowd, voice raised. He's disrupting business, that's all. People need to shop, not film some fake drama. But someone already was. A young man in a Dodgers cap had his phone out, red light blinking. He narrated quietly to his live stream. Downtown LA, vendor being aggressive with a customer for no reason. You guys seeing this? Dana hissed. Turn that off! Freedom of press, lady, the man shot back. This is public space. Malik didn't intervene. He just breathed steady, deep, composed. That calm was louder than any defense. Rick pointed toward the phone. Desperate now. You think you're helping? You're just making it worse. This dude's playing all of you. The cameraman laughed. Funny. The one yelling always says that. Lena's coworker whispered, Girl, you sure about this? No, she answered, but I'm sure about right and wrong. Someone in the back muttered, Man, leave him alone. Then another, Yeah, chill out, dude. Voices multiplied, soft but stacking the way conscience sounds before it becomes courage. Dana crossed her arms. Sir, you're causing a scene. Malik's tone stayed even. No, I'm reflecting one. Oh. She frowned, not understanding. Excuse me? The scene was here before I arrived. I just stopped pretending not to see it. That answer earned a quiet, collective, from the crowd, the sound of people realizing which way justice was leaning. Rick slammed his palm on the table. You know what? I'm done. Take your attitude somewhere else. We don't serve your kind here. The words hung heavy, louder than traffic, sharper than sirens. You could hear a collective inhale, the crowd sucking in shock. Lena's voice cracked through it. What did you just say? Rick looked around, realizing too late that the line he'd crossed had no return. Dana whispered harshly, Rick, stop talking. But the phones were already up 5, maybe 6 of them now. Screens glowed like witnesses. Malik didn't flinch. He looked at Rick the way a mirror looks at light. Calm, reflective, unforgiving. You should be careful with that sentence, he said softly. It tends to echo. What's that supposed to mean? Means it won't stop here. Rick scoffed, but the shake in his jaw betrayed him. Lena took a step forward. You can't just talk to people like that. You work here? Dana demanded. I work next door, Lena said. And I'm not blind. The cameraman zoomed in, whispering into his stream. This dude's still calm, like he knows something's coming. He didn't know how right he was. Malik finally spoke louder, voice even, but carrying authority that filled the air like music without instruments. No one deserves respect because of money, but everyone deserves it because of humanity. Silence. Then applause, hesitant at first, then real, hands clapping, phones shaking slightly. Rick glared at the crowd. Oh, so now we're clapping for trespassers? We're clapping for decency, Lena said. Malik turned to her. What's your name? Lena. Thank you, Lena, for remembering what fairness sounds like. She blinked, trying not to cry. I just said what anyone should say. Then why didn't anyone else? Malik asked gently. That question fell heavy over the group, a mirror again, facing everyone at once. Dana tried to regain control. Okay, sir, we're ending this. Please leave or I'll call security. Malik nodded. Do that, it'll save me the call. The call for what? For accountability. He reached for his phone, not rushed, just precise. Tapped once. Rachel, mark escalation level 2. Visual evidence confirmed. Confirmed, came the faint voice from his earpiece. Rick stared Pale. Who are you talking to? Someone who still believes respect is measurable. The crowd whispered. Phones lifted higher. Lena's coworker said quietly, I think he's somebody. Lena whispered back, he's everybody they underestimate. Dana's voice cut through the noise like metal on glass. Security, stall 312, she snapped into her radio. Now. A ripple went through the crowd, that sharp, collective intake of breath that always comes before someone crosses a line. Rick folded his arms, chest puffed out again. He'd found new courage and authority. Told you, man. Should have just walked away. Malik didn't flinch. And miss the lesson? Rick frowned. Lesson? What are you even talking about? The one you're giving, Malik said quietly. Dana stepped between them, clipboard like a shield. Sir, this area is for customers only. You've been warned multiple times. Now please remove yourself before we escalate further. You already have, Malik said. She exhaled sharply, the way people do when they're trying to look composed, but control is slipping through their fingers. Listen, I don't know who you think you are. That's exactly right, Malik interrupted. You don't. Her mouth closed around words that didn't quite find shape. Behind her, a uniformed security guard approached, tall, radio on his shoulder. Expression neutral but cautious. The crowd parted slightly, phones lifting higher. Everyone sensed something shifting, like pressure before a storm. Sir, the guard said, polite but firm, I'm gonna have to ask you to step aside while we verify what's going on. Malik's tone didn't change. And how do you plan to verify that? Through management. Ah, Malik said softly. The same management that made the assumption? The guard hesitated. Dana jumped in quickly. He's disrupting operations, that's all you need to know. Lena couldn't stay silent. That's not true, she blurted out. He didn't raise his voice, didn't touch anything. Rick started it. Rick spun toward her. You calling me a liar? I'm calling you loud, she said, trembling but standing firm. A few people in the crowd murmured approval. The cameraman whispered to his stream. It's getting worse. Security's here. He still hasn't moved. Malik turned slightly, addressing the guard, not with defiance, but with the weary patience of someone who's seen this cycle too many times. I'm not here for trouble, he said. Just accountability. The guard's brow furrowed. Accountability for what? For the difference between policy and prejudice. It wasn't shouted, but the weight of the words hit harder than volume ever could. Dana's composure cracked. That's enough. Leave now or I'll have you escorted out. Escorted from where? Malik asked. From this market. Oh. You're sure it's yours to command? Dana blinked, confused by the phrasing, the calm certainty underneath it. Yes, I'm sure. I manage this section under contract. Malik nodded slowly. Good. Then your name's on the liability clause. Her jaw tightened. Excuse me? You'll understand soon. Rick scoffed loudly, trying to drown the tension. He's bluffing. Look at him. Some broke motivational speaker trying to sound deep. If depth unsettles you, Malik said, it says more about what's shallow. That line rippled through the crowd, gasps, whispers, one soft laugh that wasn't humor, just disbelief. Dana turned toward the guard again. Remove him. The guard hesitated. Ma'am, he's not resisting. Maybe we just let... Do it, she snapped. He reached out, unsure, more out of obedience than conviction. Malik didn't step back, didn't even tense. He simply said, you might want to wait. Why's that? The guard asked quietly. Because when you touch me, this moment stops belonging to you. The guard froze. Something in Malik's tone, not threat, not plea carried authority that didn't need a badge. Dana's radio crackled, the static sudden and awkward. For a moment, no one spoke. Then a voice from the back yelled, let him talk. Another echoed, yeah, stop harassing him. Phones lifted higher. Camera flash pulsed. The crowd had found its conscience. Rick shouted over them, you people don't even know who this guy is. Malik turned toward him, eyes steady. No, but you will. The words weren't a threat. They were a prophecy. Rick laughed again, forced. Yeah, right. What, you gonna sue us? I don't sue vendors, Malik said. I invest in them. Confusion rippled across faces. Dana frowned. Invest? Malik adjusted his sleeve, calm as if he were just checking his watch. 5 minutes, he said quietly. That's all it ever takes for people to show you who they are. He looked at Lena. She met his eyes, understanding now that this wasn't about a bracelet or a booth. This was about exposure, the kind that burns lies to light. 5 minutes, Malik repeated, almost to himself. And you'll wish this had stayed small. The crowd hushed again, caught between disbelief and awe. Rick tried to speak, but no sound came out. Even the guard lowered his hand, stepping subtly aside. Malik's phone buzzed once in his pocket. He didn't answer. Not yet, because the lesson wasn't finished, and neither was he. It happened fast. Too fast for reason to keep up. Dana, still red-faced from losing control, grabbed the security guard's arm and snapped, "Take his phone, he's recording this." "Ma'am, now." The guard hesitated, but Rick didn't. He stepped forward, snatching at Malik's phone before the guard could move. Gasps exploded around them. The sound of shock is universal, short, sharp, and collective. Malik's body didn't move, but his eyes did. Slowly, deliberately, they found Rick's hand clutching the phone like it was evidence. "You just stole company property," Malik said quietly. Rick laughed, trying to hold on to false confidence. "Yeah, then call the cops, tough guy." "No need," Malik replied. "They'll call me." That line hit like static. Nobody spoke. Even Dana froze. "You think you're funny?" Rick sneered. "You don't scare me." Malik looked at him, not angry, not smug, just steady. "Good. Fear's a waste of time. Respect isn't." Rick turned to the guard again. "Get him out." The guard shifted awkwardly. "Sir, maybe just—" "I said now." He reached for Malik's arm. The crowd's tension snapped. "Don't touch him," someone shouted. Lena was the first to move, stepping out from behind her counter, her visor slipping sideways as she planted herself between Malik and the guard. "He didn't do anything wrong," she said, voice trembling but loud. "You can't just grab people because you don't like them." Dana barked. "Miss, step aside. This is business property." "Then your business has a problem," Lena shot back. Phones were everywhere now, raised like torches. The bystander in the Dodgers cap muttered into his stream. "They just took his phone. This is on video. Downtown LA, this is happening." Rick waved the device in the air like a trophy. "You see this? That's evidence of trespassing." "No," Malik said softly. "That's evidence of arrogance." Dana tried to cover, her tone brittle. "We're just ensuring there's no fraud here." "Fraud?" Malik repeated. The word tasted like history. "That's what they called me the first time I walked into a bank to open an account, and again when I bought my first building. Always the same word, different uniforms saying it." He took a step forward. Not aggressive, measured, grounded. "You can keep the phone," he said. "What you can't keep is the lie." Dana tried to reassert herself. "Enough theatrics, you're leaving, sir." "You're right," Malik said. "I am." He turned slightly toward Lena. "Thank you for standing up." "You're leaving?" she asked. "For now." "Like Smerkel, mistaking surrender for defeat." "Smart choice. Should have done that 10 minutes ago." Malik paused mid-step, his profile outlined against the harsh noon light. "You know what the funny thing about time is?" He turned back slowly. "It's the only thing you can't refund once you've wasted it on disrespect." He faced Rick squarely. 5 minutes ago, you still had an opportunity. Now you have a record." Rick's grin faltered. "Record? Every second of this is being logged. Not by phones. By systems you don't even know exist." Dana frowned. "What are you talking about?" "The audit feed," Malik said simply. A whoosh fell again. The guard stepped back. He didn't know what an audit feed was, but the way Malik said, it sounded final. Rick tried one more laugh. "Man, you're full of big words." "No," Malik said. "I'm full of receipts." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a slim black wallet, minimal, elegant, unbranded. Inside, a single card gleamed under the sunlight. Rick snorted. "What? That's supposed to impress me?" Malik didn't answer. He just held the card up. The logo caught the light. Turner Holdings Executive Access. The crowd gasped. Someone whispered, "Wait, Turner? Like the buildings?" Dana blinked hard, suddenly pale. "You're Malik Turner?" He nodded once. "You wanted verification. There it is." Rick's hand loosened. The phone slipped from his grip and hit the concrete. Silence followed thick, absolute. Malik looked down at it, then back up. "You took what wasn't yours. I'll take back what is." He retrieved the phone, calm, precise. "And since you seem to value proof so much," he tapped the screen once. "Rachel, escalate to phase 3. Capture full transcript." A voice came softly through his earpiece. Confirmed. Legal documentation running. Witness timestamp active. Lena's coworker whispered, "He's serious." Lena whispered back, "He's powerful." Rick stumbled for words. "Look, man, I didn't mean—" "You did," Malik said, "and that's why it counts." He turned to the crowd. "Everyone here just saw how easy dignity is to steal. But it's even easier to lose your own when you do it." He pocketed his phone, eyes steady. "Lessons over." And with that, he stepped back from the stall, leaving silence where arrogance used to be. Malik stood still for a moment, letting the silence do what anger never could command attention. Phones were still raised. Dana's clipboard hung limp at her side. Rick looked smaller now, shrinking in the shadow of his own noise. Malik tapped his earpiece once, his voice steady. "Rachel, confirm active connection." A calm reply came through, clear enough for nearby phones to catch. "Online, sir. Standing by." The word "sir" made Dana's throat tighten. Rick blinked, unsure if he'd heard it right. "Rachel," Malik said, his tone now clipped, deliberate. "Initiate internal protocol for incident logging. Cross-reference vendor 312, management contact Dana Rivers, and on-site employee Rick Folsom. Verify time code." "Confirmed," the voice replied. Camera feed synced. Market security channel identified. The words meant little to the crowd, but they sounded official, too structured to be bluff. Whispers rippled through the circle. Rick stammered, "Wait, who's she? You think you can just—" Malik turned to him, calm as glass. "You said this place was private property, right?" "Yeah." "Good. Then I own half the district your stall operates under." That sentence landed like thunder wrapped in silence. Phones shook slightly as people tried to steady their hands. Dana stepped forward, her voice barely holding. You can't be serious." "I usually am," Malik said. He pulled another card from his wallet. Not a credit card, but a black ID with gold trim, the kind used by corporate security. "Turner Urban Development, Renewal Division." Lena whispered to a customer beside her. "Renewal Division? That's the team that buys out old markets." The customer's eyes widened. "You mean he owns the contracts?" "Not yet," Malik said softly. "But after today, I will." Dana's mouth opened, closed, opened again, no words, only panic trying to find grammar. "Mr. Turner," she started, "please, if I'd known. You'd have behaved differently," Malik finished for her. "That's the problem." Rick rubbed the back of his neck, sweat cutting a path through dust. "Look, man, it was just a misunderstanding, okay? I didn't mean—" "Intent doesn't erase impact," Malik said. "You wanted a scene. You got one. Now you'll live in its replay." He turned slightly, addressing the crowd as if briefing a team, not scolding an audience. "Respect isn't a performance. It's a pattern. Today, the pattern broke." Lena lowered her phone, realizing she didn't need to film anymore. The moment had already recorded itself into everyone's conscience. Rick swallowed hard. "So what now? You gonna shut us down?" "No," Malik said. "I don't shut down potential. I remove obstacles from it." He gestured toward Lena's juice stand. "How long have you been here?" 2 years, sir." "Good. From tomorrow, your business will operate under the Turner Street program. You'll get proper permits, insurance, and a renovated space." Lena's hand flew to her mouth. "What you mean?" "You passed the only test that matters, integrity." He turned back to Dana. "As for you, contact your employer. Tell them Turner Holdings will be reviewing every contract tied to this district." "Mr. Turner, please, there's no need for that." "There's every need," Malik said. "Accountability isn't revenge, it's maintenance." Rick whispered under his breath, "You're ruining my life." Malik heard it. "No," he said. "You did that when you confused volume for value." He tapped his earpiece again. "Rachel, proceed with written summary. Include footage and all audio evidence from public feeds. Schedule follow-up with city liaison for vendor ethics compliance." "Logged and confirmed," Rachel replied. "Would you like press coverage?" The crowd reacted, gasps, murmurs, the realization that this wasn't just talk. "No press," Malik said. "Dignity doesn't need headlines." That line drew quiet applause, not loud, but genuine. Malik finally turned back to Rick, voice soft enough that only the closest could hear. "I told you I came here to learn who deserves a chance. You've taught me who doesn't." Rick's lip trembled. "Please just don't take my stall." Malik considered him for a long second. "I don't take. I reassign." He nodded toward Lena. "Vendor license 312 transfer ownership to Miss Lena Perez, effective immediately." Dana gasped. You can't do that. I already did, Malik said. That's the difference between noise and authority. One fades, the other files, paperwork. And then he stepped back, letting the weight of his words fill the silence. No yelling, no celebration, just justice, quiet and complete, setting into the air like a verdict everyone had already agreed on. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Just the hum of the city filling the silence Malik left behind. Then someone whispered, "That's him. That's Malik Turner." And like a fuse catching fire, recognition spread through the crowd. Phones lifted higher, screens blinked alive. The name hit the internet before his sentence even finished. Dana's eyes widened, color draining from her face. "Oh my God," she breathed. "The Malik Turner?" Malik turned his gaze toward her, calm, impersonal, the way executives look at balance sheets. The same. Rick stumbled backward, his hands half raised as if that could shield him from what he'd just done. "Look, I didn't know, man. I swear I didn't." "That's the point," Malik said softly. "You never do. Not until the consequence walks in wearing sneakers." He took a step closer, the sunlight catching the edge of his black card still in his hand. "You judged by the surface, the same mistake people make every day, the kind that costs them more than money." Rick swallowed hard. "Please, don't ruin me." "I don't ruin people," Malik said. "I reveal them." End of trowel. He turned slightly, facing the crowd now. The phones were steady, the hush absolute. "For those recording," he said, "you can stop guessing. My name is Malik Turner, founder and CEO of Turner Holdings. We own the redevelopment rights for this district." Gasps rippled outward like shock waves. Someone whispered, "He owns the whole block." Another muttered, "No way." Malik continued, his tone not proud, just precise. "I came here today because I wanted to see who still understood respect when no one was watching. I came as a stranger. You all decided who I was." He paused, scanning the crowd. Faces stared back, guilt, awe, reflection. "Every word you said, every silence you kept, that's the world we live in, and it's the one I'm changing." He gestured toward Lena. "This woman stood up when it wasn't safe to. That's leadership. Starting tomorrow, her stall operates under Turner Street Initiative. Fully funded, fully protected." The crowd cheered softly, no shouting, just that low rumble of respect that feels like thunder held back. Dana's clipboard slipped from her fingers, clattering onto the concrete. "Mr. Turner, I can fix this. I can make this right." Malik looked at her. "Can you?" "Yes, I'll do anything." "Then start by remembering," he said. "Power isn't a license. It's a responsibility." He turned to Rick. "You sell craftsmanship, Rick, but you forgot the first rule of craft integrity. Without it, everything you build breaks faster." Rick's voice cracked. "I was just trying to protect my business." "You protected your ego," Malik replied. "Your business didn't need that." He slipped his phone into his pocket. "You'll keep working here, under new terms. Mandatory ethics training, supervised by Turner Holdings." Rick blinked, surprised. "You're not firing me?" "No," Malik said. "You're getting a second chance, but you'll have to earn it publicly." A soft murmur of approval spread through the crowd. Lena wiped her eyes discreetly, whispering, "He gave him grace." Malik heard her, faintly smiled. "Grace isn't weakness," he said. "It's the proof of strength." Dana stepped forward timidly. "Mr. Turner, will there be penalties?" "Not from me," he said. "From your own conscience." He turned his eyes toward the crowd again. "For those watching, take this with you. Judgment travels faster than truth, but truth always arrives." The cameraman lowered his phone. Lena looked around. People weren't filming anymore. They were just watching quietly, completely, as if afraid to breathe too loud. Malik exhaled, slow, controlled. "Now that you know who I am, remember what I said before you did." He started to walk away, his steps unhurried, the sound of his shoes echoing through the still market. The guard stepped aside wordlessly. Dana bent to pick up her clipboard, hands shaking. Rick stood frozen, tears forming where pride used to live. Lena whispered, almost to herself, "He didn't punish them, he educated them." And someone behind her answered softly, "That's what real power looks like." For a long while after Malik Turner walked away, no one spoke. Only the hum of the city filled the airbuses groaning in the distance, pigeons scattering near a food truck, the faint buzz of neon signs waking up for the evening. Rick still stood behind his stall, hands open, unsure what to do with them. The bracelets glimmered in the sunlight, suddenly looking cheap against the weight of what had just happened. Dana was the first to move. She bent to pick up her clipboard, but her fingers trembled too much to grip it. The paper scattered in the wind like confessions she could no longer keep together. Lena stepped around her counter slowly, eyes still on the spot where Malik had stood. The air there felt different, calmer, heavier, like it had absorbed the sound of truth. The cameraman lowered his phone completely now. He wasn't streaming anymore. He just whispered to no one in particular, "I thought I was filming drama. Turns out it was a lesson." Rick exhaled shakily. His voice came out small, stripped of swagger, almost boyish. "He could have destroyed me." Dana nodded faintly. "He still might." "No," Lena said quietly. "He won't." They all looked at her. She wasn't smiling, her voice held no triumph, just clarity. If he wanted revenge, he'd have taken it right here. He came for something else. Rick swallowed, guilt rising like heat. "You think he'll actually let me keep my stall?" "He just said you could," Lena answered. "But maybe that's the harder punishment, living every day with the proof of what you almost ruined." Dana rubbed her temples, staring down at the ground. "God, the investors are going to hear about this." "They already did," said the cameraman softly, pointing to the live feed still trending on his phone. Across the screen, comments scrolled faster than he could read. "Instant karma. Grace under fire. That man's composure belongs in textbooks." "Okay." Rick turned away, muttering, "I didn't mean it like that, I didn't mean it." Lena's voice was calm but sharp. "Meaning doesn't erase what people feel when you say it." He didn't argue. He couldn't. Across the walkway, other vendors watched in silence. One man quietly removed a sign that read, "No refunds, no exceptions." Another lowered his prices. A woman behind a jewelry booth whispered a small prayer. Something had shifted not just in the air, but in the way they looked at each other. A market once loud with competition now hummed with reflection. Dana finally spoke again, her tone brittle but honest. "I told him it was a liability issue." She shook her head, half laughing, half crying. "Turns out, I was the liability." Lena placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Maybe fix it. Not for him, for you." Rick sat down behind his counter, elbows on his knees, head in his hand. The bracelets still shimmered in front of him, little circles of leather and metal, all symbols of craft, none of character. He stared at them as if they'd been made by someone else entirely. "He said integrity was the first rule," Rick murmured. "I never thought about it like that." Lena glanced up at the fading Sunday. "Most people don't until someone forces the mirror in front of them." The cameraman turned his phone screen toward Rick, showing him the live video now replaying with hundreds of thousands of views. "You're viral, man, but not for the reason you hoped." Rick winced. "Guess fame hits different when you're the villain." "Then change the story," Lena said softly. "You've got the ending in your hands." Dana exhaled, finally standing up straighter. "We need to issue a statement. Apologize publicly." Lena nodded. "Do it. People forgive faster when they see growth instead of panic." The crowd had thinned by now, just a few curious onlookers lingering, reluctant to leave the scene where a man had turned humiliation into a sermon. Above them, the mural of Kobe glowed in the evening light, the painted eyes seeming to watch the lesson unfold. Rick looked up at it, then down again. "He didn't fire me," he said quietly. "Why didn't he fire me?" Lena answered without hesitation. "Because firing you wouldn't teach you anything. Living with this will." For the first time all day, Rick nodded without defensiveness. "Yeah," he whispered. "Yeah, it will." And as the last of the daylight slid off the metal edges of the stall, silence settled over the market again, not tense this time, but thoughtful. The kind of silence that meant something had changed. The next morning, the market woke to a silence it didn't recognize. No music, no shouting vendors. Just a line of black SUVs parked along the curb like punctuation marks at the end of yesterday's story. Rick arrived early, eyes red from a night with no sleep. He wasn't sure what to expect: eviction, fines, cameras. Instead, he found a woman in a Navy suit, standing at stall 312, holding a clipboard with the Turner Holdings logo. "You're Rick Folsom?" she asked. "Yeah," he muttered. "Guess you're here to shut me down." She shook her head. "No. Mr. Turner doesn't shut people down. He restructures them." Rick blinked. "Meaning?" "Meaning your contract's been transferred. Effective immediately, you'll operate under the Turner Ethics Program. 2 months of mentorship, full audit of business practices, and new branding handmade with honor." He stared at her. "You're serious?" "Completely." Rick looked down at his hands, the same hands that had shoved Malik's phone, the same ones that now trembled over the bracelets he'd made. He's giving me a second chance? He said everyone deserves one, she replied. Unless they waste it. Across the street, Lena's new stall gleamed under a freshly hung banner. Turner Street Initiative Partner. Her juice stand looked transformed new signage, stainless counters, her name printed bold above the logo. She saw Rick looking and raised a small wave, not prideful, just human. Dana appeared next, clutching a folder like a lifeline. She approached the same woman in the Navy suit. I was told to report here, she said nervously. You must be Dana Rivers, the woman replied. Turner Holdings accepted your request for re-evaluation. You'll join our compliance division for retraining. Dana blinked. Retraining? You're not firing me either? He doesn't believe in firing for embarrassment, only for repetition. Dana exhaled, tears threatening. Tell him, thank you. And you can tell him yourself, the woman said, nodding behind her. Malik stood a few paces away, dressed sharply now dark suit, open collar, no tie. The same composure, but a different weight. The crowd that had gathered went silent as he walked forward. He stopped beside Rick's booth, picked up one of the bracelets, and examined it again. Good craftsmanship, he said. Still needs polish. Rick swallowed hard. I don't deserve this. Maybe not yet, Malik said. But you could. Enderit. He placed the bracelet back carefully. Pride and skill are not the same thing. One builds, the other burns. Rick nodded, eyes wet. I understand. Do better, Malik said simply. That's all the repayment I want. Then he turned to Dana. You've been in management too long to forget humility. Find it again. I will, sir. Don't say sir. Say I will. Respect is proven, not performed. She nodded. I will. Malik scanned the market vendors, whispering, customers pretending not to stare. This market will change, he said, voice carrying just enough for everyone to hear. Every stall under Turner Holdings will adopt a fairness policy. No discrimination, no arrogance disguised as professionalism. We'll call it ground code. The woman in the Navy suit scribbled it down. Effective today? Effective yesterday, Malik said. A ripple of laughter broke through the tension, soft, nervous, healing. He looked toward Lena's stand. Miss Perez, he called. She came forward quickly, nervous but smiling. Yes, Mr. Turner? Your program starts Monday. Equipment upgrades will arrive before then. I don't know how to thank you. By keeping your heart steady, Malik said, and by helping others when the next person stands alone. She nodded, eyes glassy. I will. Malik glanced at Rick one last time. Remember yesterday when you told me not to touch anything? Rick winced. Yeah. Today, I'm telling you touch everything. Build, repair, earn what you almost lost. Rick lowered his head. Yes, sir. Malik smiled faintly. Now that, he said, is the right use of sir. He turned, walking toward his car. Reporters waited across the street, cameras flashing. He ignored them, eyes focused ahead. Behind him, the market buzzed to life again, not with chaos, but renewal. Laughter returned. Music crept back through the speakers. And in stall 312, a man who'd once shouted at strangers quietly began to sand a new bracelet, the first piece made under his new name. Handmade with honor. The afternoon light stretched long across the pavement, painting everything gold, the stalls, the people, the lessons. By the time Malik reached the end of the market, the noise had turned gentle again. Children laughed near a churro stand. Vendors called out new prices. Life resumed, but not quite the same. He paused beside his car, watching through the tinted window reflection, Rick polishing his bracelets in silence, Lena smiling at her first real customer, Dana walking through the aisles, clipboard tucked to her chest like a promise. Malik inhaled slowly. The air smelled of cinnamon, sweat, and second chances. Rachel's voice came through his earpiece. Incident protocol closed, sir. All reports logged. Public reaction. Overwhelmingly positive. He smiled faintly. Not public. Human. Let's keep it that way. Understood, she said. Would you like press follow-up? No press, Malik answered. Let the work speak. He turned off the device, pocketed it, and took one last look at the street that had tested him and revealed itself. As he opened the car door, a boy selling bottled water ran up, breathless. Hey, mister, you forgot your change yesterday. Malik looked down. The kid held out 2 crumpled dollar bills. Keep it, Malik said. Investment capital. The boy grinned wide. For real? For real, Malik said. Just promise me one thing. What? When it's your turn, respect everyone, even the ones who don't look like money. The kid nodded hard. Yes, sir. Malik smiled. That's how the world changes one tone, one moment, one mirror at a time. He stepped into the car, the door closing softly behind him. No music played. No engines roat. Just quiet, the kind that follows truth when it finally lands. As the car pulled away, the market came into view in the rearview mirror, smaller, humbler, but shining. Signs fluttered in the breeze. Handmade with honor. Turner Street Initiative. Ground code in effect. Each word felt like a sentence in something bigger, not a speech, but a legacy. Inside the car, Rachel's voice returned softly. Heard they're already calling it the Turner Standard. Let them call it whatever they need, Malik said. Names fade, conduct stays. He leaned back, eyes closing briefly. Behind his eyelids, the memory replayed Rick's sneer, the crowd's silence, Lena's trembling courage. Each image a reminder. Power means nothing until it protects the powerless. Then, softly like narration, only the audience could hear, his thoughts became voice. People think justice is loud, but real justice is quiet. It doesn't shout in the streets. It settles in hearts. The camera lingered on his reflection in the car window, calm, steady, unbothered. Downtown glided past in blur and light. He wasn't running from the scene. He was carrying it forward. Back at the market, Rick finished his first bracelet under the new banner. He didn't sign his name this time. He carved 2 words instead. Respect, restored. Lena hung her new sign with both hands, smiling through tears. Dana stayed late, helping other vendors reorganize, repeating the same phrase over and over like a prayer. We can do better. We will do better. And somewhere far from the cameras, Malik Turner closed his notebook, the same one he'd carried through every market, every test, every lesson. Inside, underlined in black ink, were the only 3 words he ever needed to remember. Dignity builds empires. The frame held on that sentence as music swelled, warm, deliberate, like sunlight finding steel, then fade to black. White letters appeared one by one. He didn't fire them. He elevated the right one. Justice doesn't shout, it arrives. Black CEO Series.